Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. I always thought if a marriage fell apart, there'd be a moment you could pinpoint, a fight, a confession, something sharp and undeniable that marked the end. But with Sarah, it wasn't like that. Our life together didn't break, it just dissolved. We've been married for nearly 9 years, no children by choice, not circumstance. We loved our independence, careers that paid the bills, weekends spent exploring new cities or curled up with gritty crime dramas and takeout. Our apartment in Portland buzzed with late-night talks, friends spilling wine on the rug, debates that stretched past midnight. We weren't flawless, but we fit. At least I thought we did. The change crept in slowly, like fog rolling over the coast. The past year fell off, not in one big way, but in 1,000 small ones. Sarah's hand no longer brushed mine when we passed in the kitchen. Our conversations shrank to logistics, bills, schedules, what's for dinner. She'd slip into bed early, her back to me before I could even mutter goodnight. I chalked it up to stress. My job at the tech firm was relentless, and Sarah's new role at a marketing agency came with endless deadlines. I didn't press her. I figured we'd ride it out like always. But months passed, and the distance grew. No more casual touches, no fleeting smiles, just a quiet, civil void. One evening, we sat on the balcony of our apartment, the city lights flickering below. Sarah held a glass of Pinot, her bare feet tucked under her, a familiar pose from our early days. I took a breath and asked, "Are we okay?" She didn't hesitate, didn't even look up, just sipped her wine and said, "We're growing." Growing? I pressed. She nodded, calm as ever. Relationships change, James. Maybe this is just a new chapter. Less need, more space. Her voice was steady, but the word space landed like a stone. Less need? It sounded like she'd traded intimacy for something she valued more. I nodded, swallowing the sting, hoping it was just a phase. But deep down, I felt it. We weren't growing. We were unraveling. Weeks later, Sarah seemed lighter, but not with me. She hummed while getting dressed, her laugh louder, her playlist full of upbeat pop she hadn't listened to in years. New dresses appeared in her closet, sleek, bold, unlike her usual jeans and sweaters. She started waking up at dawn for yoga classes across town, a habit she'd once mocked as too much effort. I tried to be supportive. Who wouldn't want their partner to feel alive? But it wasn't just her glow. It was the way it seemed to exist outside of us, like I was no longer part of her equation. Her phone became a stranger too. Once left carelessly on the counter, now it was always face down, silent, locked. One night, as we passed in the hallway, I reached to brush her hair from her face, a gesture I'd done countless times. She pulled back, just enough to notice. "Sorry," she mumbled. "Didn't expect you." I said nothing, just stepped aside, but something in me tightened. Later that evening, she came home late, claiming a last-minute project meeting. She dropped her bag by the door and headed for the shower. I moved it to the side, noticing its weight. Curious, I unzipped the front pocket. Inside was a slim, unfamiliar laptop, not her usual work one. When I asked about it the next morning, she didn't flinch. "Work gave it to me," she said, stirring her coffee. "Just a temp replacement. Software glitch." She leaned over, kissed my forehead. "You're sweet to notice." I smiled back, but it didn't reach my eyes. Sweet wasn't the word. Awake was. After that, I stopped asking questions aloud. Her answers felt like deflections, and I wasn't here for half-truths. So I did what I do when something feels wrong. I got quiet and started paying attention. Sarah kept up our routines. Tacos on Thursdays, movie nights on Saturdays, but the warmth was gone. We were roommates, polished and polite. One night, while she showered, I checked our Wi-Fi network. I'd set it up years ago, so I had full access. 3 devices were connected: her phone, her work laptop, and something labeled unknown device. My stomach turned. I didn't touch anything, just stared at the screen, memorizing the MAC address. I reached out to my old college friend, Ryan, a cybersecurity guy who could dig into things most people couldn't. We met at a diner downtown. I slid him the MAC address and asked him to check what was happening on our network. No details, just a request. He didn't pry, just nodded and said, "Give me a day." By the next evening, he sent me a file, logs, timestamps, URLs. I waited until Sarah was asleep to open it. Most of it was mundane, encrypted app traffic, until a name appeared in the metadata. Michael Carter. Not just any name. Sarah had mentioned Michael years ago, a brief fling before we met, someone she'd brushed off as not serious. But here he was, tied to logins from her IP, shared cloud folders, even a few video calls. I didn't read everything, just enough to shatter my denial. There were message fragments Ryan had pulled from a cloud backup. Nothing explicit, but enough. James feels like a roommate now. You see me in a way he never could. I forgot what it's like to feel wanted. The last one hit hardest, dated 3 days after our anniversary dinner, where we'd sat in a trendy bistro, barely speaking, her eyes on her phone. I didn't confront her. I didn't storm out. Instead, I matched her distance. No more small gestures, no more reaching. She didn't seem to mind. In fact, she seemed freer, leaving earlier, staying out later, her perfume sharp and deliberate. But I was watching, noting every shift, every lie. Not for revenge, but for truth. Because the woman I'd loved wasn't just drifting, she was already gone. And I was done pretending otherwise. The realization didn't hit me all at once, but it settled like sediment, heavy and undeniable. Sarah wasn't just pulling away. She was building a life that didn't include me. I kept my routine steady, coffee in the morning, work, gym, home, because routine was the only thing keeping me grounded. But every day I saw more. The way she'd check her phone the second it buzzed, her fingers flying across the screen with a focus she hadn't shown me in months. The way she'd linger in front of the mirror, adjusting her earrings, her lipstick, like she was preparing for someone who mattered. I noticed the new scarf she wore, one I hadn't bought, and the faint scent of cedarwood cologne on it when she left it on the couch. It wasn't mine. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I leaned into the silence, letting it sharpen my senses. Ryan's file sat on my laptop, a digital weight I couldn't ignore. I dug deeper one night after Sarah left for a team happy hour. The log showed more than I'd expected. Encrypted chats? Yes, but also location data. Michael's name appeared again, tied to a coffee shop in the Pearl District, a boutique hotel downtown, places Sarah had no reason to be. One entry stopped me cold. A calendar invite for a weekend trip to Seattle, synced to that unfamiliar laptop. She'd told me she was visiting her sister that weekend. I remembered because she'd packed light, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "I'll be back Sunday." I believed her. Now I felt like a fool. I called Ryan again, this time over beers at a quiet bar on the east side. "Can you pull more?" I asked, sliding him a USB with the new data I'd collected, screenshots of her network activity, timestamps I'd cross-referenced with her late nights. He raised an eyebrow, but didn't question me. "You're sure you want this?" he asked, tapping the drive. I nodded. I need to know how deep this goes. 2 days later, he sent me a new file. This one had fragments of messages, unencrypted from a backup Sarah hadn't secured. "I can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel alive again." Another, "James doesn't suspect anything. He's too caught up in his own world." That one burned. Not because of the betrayal, but because she thought I was blind. I started cross-referencing her stories. The team meetings that ran late were at times when her colleagues posted about being home on social media. The yoga classes she claimed to attend didn't match the studio schedule. I wasn't obsessive, just thorough. I needed facts, not feelings, to confirm what my gut already knew. One evening, she came home, her hair slightly mussed, her smile too bright. "Good day," I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Great day," she said, kicking off her shoes. "Client loved the pitch." I nodded, but I'd already checked. Her agency hadn't had a client meeting that day. The lie was so effortless, it almost impressed me. I began to mirror her detachment. No more asking about her day, no more offering to cook together. I'd pour myself a whiskey and sit on the balcony alone, letting the city noise drown out the ache. Sarah noticed, but she didn't push. Instead, she doubled down on her new life. More yoga, more work events, more time spent on her phone. One night, I saw her typing furiously, her face lit by the screen, a soft smile I hadn't seen in years. I didn't need to see the message to know who it was for. "Michael." The man she'd once called just a fling was now the one she lit up for. I met Ryan again, this time at his office, a cramped space filled with monitors and coffee cups. He handed me a printout. "This is everything I could get without crossing lines," he said. The log showed Michael's email linked to a shared cloud drive with Sarah. Photos, documents, even a playlist titled Us. I didn't open the photos. I wasn't ready for that, but the playlist title was enough. It was intimate, deliberate. I thanked Ryan, slipped the printout into my bag, and left. On the drive home, I felt something shift. Not anger, not yet, but clarity. Sarah wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting our story, casting me as the backdrop to her new adventure. That night, I watched her sleep, her face soft in the moonlight filtering through our bedroom window. She looked like the woman I'd married, the one who'd laughed with me over burnt pancakes, who'd danced barefoot in our old apartment to songs we both hated. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone who could lie without blinking, who could build a secret life while sharing my bed. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my desk, staring at the printout, the evidence of her choices. I wasn't gathering it to hurt her. I was gathering it to free myself. The next morning, Sarah woke up cheerful, humming as she made coffee. "You're up early," she said, glancing at me. I nodded, sipping my own coffee, my laptop closed on the counter. "Busy day," I said, my voice flat. She didn't notice the shift, or if she did, she didn't care. She left for yoga, her bag slung over her shoulder, that unfamiliar laptop tucked inside. I waited until the door clicked shut, then opened my laptop. I didn't need more proof, but I needed a plan. I wasn't going to confront her with tears or shouting matches. I wasn't going to beg for answers she'd never give. Instead, I called a lawyer friend, Emma, who specialized in family law. "I need to talk options," I said. She didn't ask questions, just set a meeting for the next day. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in months. The truth wasn't just setting me free. It was giving me a way out. The days after meeting Emma felt like walking on a tightrope, steady, deliberate, no room for error. I didn't let on to Sarah that anything had changed. I cooked breakfast, answered her texts, kept the surface of our life smooth. But inside, I was cataloging every detail, every lie. Her morning yoga classes, her late-night work calls, the way her eyes darted to her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I wasn't spying, not exactly, just seeing what she'd stopped hiding. The scarf with the cedarwood scent appeared again, draped over a chair. She wore it to a team dinner and came back with her lipstick slightly smudged. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Emma's office was small, tucked above a bookstore in southeast Portland. She was sharp, no nonsense, with a knack for cutting through emotional fog. I handed her the printouts from Ryan, logs, message fragments, the Seattle trip calendar invite. She skimmed them, her pen tapping the desk. "This is enough for a clean case," she said. "No-fault divorce is straightforward in Oregon, but this gives you leverage if she contests." I didn't want to fight, just an exit. "What's next?" I asked. She outlined the steps. File the petition, split assets, sell the apartment. "You've got a strong paper trail," she said. "She won't have much room to push back." I nodded, the weight of it settling in. This wasn't just about leaving. It was about dismantling a life we'd built together. Back home, Sarah was brighter than ever, like she was auditioning for a version of herself I didn't recognize. She'd started wearing her hair down, loose waves framing her face, and her perfume was sharper, more intentional. One evening, she suggested we order from our favorite Thai place, a throwback to our early days. I agreed, but the meal felt staged. She laughed too loud at my small talk, her eyes flicking to her phone mid-sentence. "Everything okay?" I asked, testing her. "Perfect," she said, smiling too wide. "Just a work thing." I nodded, but I'd already checked the network logs that morning. Another message to Michael, sent while we were eating. "Can't wait for Friday." Friday was tomorrow. She'd told me she had a late meeting. I met Ryan again, this time at a park bench by the Willamette River. He handed me a new file, smaller but heavier. "You're not going to like this," he warned. Inside were screenshots from a cloud drive Sarah hadn't locked down. Photos, not explicit but intimate. Her and Michael at a wine bar, her head tilted toward him, his hand on her arm. Another of them on a rooftop, city lights behind them, her smile the kind I hadn't seen in years. The timestamps matched her sister's weekend in Seattle. I didn't flinch. Thanks, I said, pocketing the drive. Ryan hesitated. You okay, James? I shrugged. Getting there. That night, I watched Sarah move through our apartment like nothing was wrong. She hummed while washing dishes, her phone buzzing on the counter. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. The evidence was piling up, not for a confrontation, but for my own clarity. I was done being the man who waited for her to choose me. The next morning, she left for her meeting, her bag heavier than usual. I called Emma and told her to start drafting the papers. I want to clean, I said. No back and forth. She agreed, promising to have everything ready by Monday. Sarah came home late that night, her cheeks flushed, her voice too bright. Long day, she said, dropping her bag and heading for the shower. I didn't respond, just sipped my whiskey and stared out the balcony window. The city felt quieter, like it was holding its breath. I thought about the photos, the messages, the life she was building without me. It wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure. She'd rewritten our story, made me the supporting character in her new romance. But I wasn't playing along anymore. The next day, I started preparing. I met a realtor, a brisk woman named Clara, to discuss selling the apartment. She walked through our place, noting the hardwood floors, the view, the open kitchen. It'll sell fast, she said. Market's hot. I nodded, imagining the space empty, our life packed into boxes. I didn't tell Sarah. I didn't tell anyone except Ryan, who offered his spare room if I needed it. You're doing the right thing, he said over coffee. She's already checked out. I knew he was right, but it didn't soften the ache. That evening, Sarah tried to bridge the gap. She sat next to me on the couch, closer than she had in months, her hand brushing mine during a movie. This is nice, she said softly, like she was testing the waters. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. Yeah, I said, my voice flat. She looked at me, her eyes searching, but I didn't give her anything back. For the first time, I saw a flicker of unease in her face. She didn't push, just curled up against the armrest, her phone silent for once. I wondered if she sensed the shift, if she felt the ground moving beneath her. But I didn't ask. I was done asking. The papers were coming, the apartment was going on the market, and I was already halfway out the door. She just didn't know it yet. The weekend felt like a hell breath. Sarah was home more than usual, as if she sensed the shift in the air, but couldn't name it. She made small gestures, brewing coffee for us both, suggesting a walk along the riverfront, even reaching for my hand during a quiet moment on the couch. Each move felt like an echo of who we used to be, but it was too late for echoes. I played along, not out of hope, but to keep the peace until the papers were ready. Emma had texted me late Friday. The divorce petition was drafted, and she'd file it Monday unless I said otherwise. I didn't. Sarah's brightness had dimmed slightly, her usual spark replaced by something cautious. On Saturday, she caught me staring out the balcony window and asked, "You okay, James? You seem far away." I turned, meeting her eyes for the first time in days. "Just thinking," I said, my voice neutral. She nodded, but her fingers twisted the hem of her sweater, a nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. "We should do something fun soon," she said. "Maybe a weekend trip, just us. Like we used to." Her voice was soft, almost pleading, but it didn't land. I saw the rooftop photo with Michael in my mind, her smile brighter than it had ever been for me. "Maybe," I said, turning back to the window. She didn't push, but the silence that followed felt heavier than before. Sunday morning, I met Clara, the realtor, at a coffee shop to finalize the apartment listing. She spread out photos of our place on the table, her pen circling features that would sell in a heartbeat. I signed the agreement, my hand steady despite the knot in my chest. "You sure you don't want to tell her?" Clara asked, glancing at me over her glasses. "It's your call, but it's easier if both parties are on board." I shook my head. "She'll know soon enough." Clara nodded, no judgment, and promised to schedule an open house by the end of the week. I left the meeting feeling unmoored but resolute. This was no longer about saving us. It was about saving myself. Back home, Sarah was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, a rare effort. Thought I'd cook tonight, she said, smiling over her shoulder. You still like that lemon chicken, right? I nodded, but the gesture felt hollow. We ate at the dining table, the first time in months, and she kept the conversation light. Work, a new art exhibit downtown, a funny story about a coworker. I responded just enough to keep it civil, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the messages, the photos, the lies. Halfway through dinner, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then flipped it face down, her smile faltering. Work, she said unprompted. I didn't react, just took another bite. The chicken tasted like nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her, the space between us a canyon. Her breathing was steady, but I wondered if she felt the same weight I did. I slipped out of bed and sat at my desk, opening my laptop. Ryan had sent one last file, a final sweep of the network. It included a new message fragment, dated that afternoon. I miss you. Can we meet tomorrow? It was Sarah to Michael, sent while I was with Clara. I stared at the words, not surprised but still cut by them. She was still reaching for him, even as she played at fixing things with me. I closed the laptop and made a decision. No more waiting. Monday morning, Emma called to confirm the filing. It's done, she said. She'll be served by tomorrow. I thanked her and hung up, the finality settling in. When Sarah left for work, I packed a bag, just essentials, nothing sentimental. I called Ryan and asked if his spare room was still open. Always, he said, no questions asked. I spent the day tying up loose ends, redirecting my mail, transferring bills to my name alone, setting up a new bank account. Each step felt like peeling away a layer of the life I'd known. When Sarah came home that evening, I was on the balcony, my bag packed, but out of sight. She dropped her keys on the counter and joined me, leaning against the railing. Nice night, she said, her voice soft. I nodded, staring at the city lights. For a moment, we stood in silence, the kind that used to feel comfortable. Now was a void. James, she started, her tone hesitant. I've been thinking. I know things haven't been great, but I want to try. Really try. She reached for my arm, her touch light but deliberate. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. It's late for that, I said, my voice low. Her hand froze. What do you mean? She asked, her eyes searching mine. I didn't answer, just looked at her, letting the silence say what I couldn't. She dropped her hand, her face paling, but she didn't press. Not yet. I left for Ryan's that night, telling her I needed space for a few days. She nodded, her eyes glassy, but she didn't argue. As I closed the door behind me, I felt the first real breath I'd taken in months. The papers were coming. The apartment would sell. Sarah's world was about to shift, and she had no idea how far I'd already gone. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was ready. I woke up in Ryan's spare room, the quiet of his apartment, a stark contrast to the noise in my head. My phone was silent. No calls, no text from Sarah. I hadn't expected any. She'd always been good at dodging the hard moments, letting silence do her work. Emma called around midday, her voice calm and professional. The papers were served at her office this morning, she said. She signed for them. No issues. I thanked her, the words feeling final, like a door locking behind me. The apartment listing was live, set for an open house in 2 days. I'd already moved what mattered to Ryan's. Clothes, a few books, my guitar. The rest could go with the sale. That afternoon, Sarah texted. We need to talk. Please, James. I stared at the message, my finger tracing the edge of the phone. Ignoring it would have been easier, but I needed closure, not avoidance. I agreed to meet at a small cafe by the Willamette, neutral ground. When I got there, she was already seated, her face bare, hair tied back, eyes puffy and raw. She looked like she'd been carrying the weight of it all. James, she said as I sat, her voice thin. I didn't think you'd show. I didn't answer, just waited. She twisted her napkin, her hands unsteady. I got the papers, she said. I didn't think you'd actually do it. I leaned back, keeping my voice even. I told you I was done. You didn't believe me. Her eyes flicked up, wide with something like fear. I messed up, she whispered. Michael was a mistake. It wasn't real. I tilted my head, the words too familiar. A mistake? You lied for months, Sarah. Planned trips. Shared secrets. That's not a mistake. That's a life you chose. She winced, her fingers tightening on the napkin. I was confused, she said. I felt like we were fading, like I wasn't enough for you. Michael, who's just there? He saw me. I exhaled, the hurt sharpening into something colder. You didn't let me see you, I said. You shut me out and called it my fault. Her face collapsed, tears spilling. I read your messages, I went on. Saw the photos, the playlist you made with him. You didn't just step out, Sarah. You erased me. She shook her head, voice breaking. I didn't mean to. I thought I could have you, and something else. I was wrong. I see that now. I looked at her, searching for the woman I'd married. The one who'd laughed with me in dive bars, who'd planned road trips on napkins. She wasn't there. I believe you regret it, I said. But regret doesn't fix trust. It doesn't change what you did. She reached for my hand. I drew back, not harsh, just final. Please, James, she said, her voice barely audible. I'll end it with him. I'll do anything. I don't want to lose you. I shook my head. You already did. Months ago. Her tears fell faster, but the cafe kept moving, clinking cups, soft chatter, life going on. I stood, dropping cash for the coffee. Take care of yourself, Sarah, I said, and walked out. The river glinted outside, steady and indifferent. I didn't look back. The next week passed in a blur. The apartment sold faster than Claire predicted, a young couple eager to start their own story. I signed the final papers at a notary's office, the pen heavy but sure. Sarah didn't fight it, didn't call again. Emma handled the split, clean, fair, no drama. I moved into a small loft across town, 1 bedroom, exposed brick, a view of nothing special. It was enough. I bought a secondhand chair, a cheap desk, and started playing my guitar again, the notes filling the empty space. Ryan came over with beers one night, and we toasted to new beginnings, no words needed. Sarah's name popped up on my phone one last time, a week later. A single message. I'm sorry. I miss you. I read it, let it sit for a moment, then deleted it. Not out of anger, but because I finally understood. Missing someone isn't loving them. Love doesn't lie, doesn't hide, doesn't leave you guessing. She called our distance freedom, but it was just cowardice. I found something better. Not just freedom, but peace. The kind that doesn't demand anything, doesn't break you down. I was living it now, one quiet step at a time.